Hi, welcome to my channel. My name's Leilani. You could also call me Lay. And today I want to do another book versus movie. It is currently right now Christmas Eve, almost 7:30. And I am reading A Boy Called Christmas. And Netflix just recently did an adaptation of it. All my presents are falling behind me. But I have the physical read because it has like pictures and stuff. But I also downloaded the audiobook because I really like it. So I'm going to play a little snippet.
He had always imagined that seeing the elves would be the happiest thing in the world. But the atmosphere was very miserable. The elves were divided according to the color of the tunic.
Okay, so I'm just going to play snippets so I don't get copyrighted. But I really like the narrator, Stephen Fry, and he does so well at narrating. So if you don't know, usually I spoil things in this video, so if you don't want to be spoiled, you should leave. But I'll read you the synopsis of the book, because if you plan on reading it, I think you should do the audiobook. It says, "You're about to read the true story of Father Christmas. It is a story that proves that nothing is impossible. If you are one of those people who believe that some things are impossible, you should put this book down right away. It is most certainly not for you, because this book is full of impossible things. Are you still reading? Good. Let us begin. A Boy Called Christmas is a tale of adventure, snow, kidnapping, elves, more snow, and an 11-year-old boy called Nicholas who isn't afraid to believe in magic." So basically, I believe this book is like gonna show how, like, the backstory of Santa, like growing up. And let me tell you, his life is not grand. Like, you would think it's happy-go-lucky because he's Santa, but it's not. So even like in the first chapter, one of my favorite quotes so far that I highlighted, it says, "He would have told you he was happy. If you asked him, he certainly tried to be happy, but sometimes being happy is quite tricky. I suppose what I'm saying is that Nicholas was a boy who believed in happiness, the way he believed in elves and trolls and pixies, but he had never actually seen an elf or a troll or a pixie. He hadn't really seen proper happiness either." And I was like, ooh. But yeah, so I really like this book so far. I'm on chapter 15, and there's so much that's happened. So the backstory of Santa, or Father Christmas, or whatever we're calling him. His name is Nicholas. He was born on Christmas Day, and his father, Joel, nicknamed him Christmas. We found out his mother died due to, I think, a bear attack. That's what they said. But then him and his father lived a poor lifestyle. Like, they didn't, it was not it. And basically the father was greeted by a hunter, and the hunter was like, "There's a task to find Elfham, where all the elves are at, but nobody believes it's real. But the king wants the city, right? Or he wants to see the elves. And if his father Joel helped the huntsman out and prove that the city was real, they would get a lot of money." So his father leaves him with his auntie, who is trash. I hate her. But basically, she treats him like shit. And then one of the worst stories. So Nicholas, didn't grow up with many things, right? And he didn't really have any toys. Well, he didn't have any toys. So what his mom did was basically took a root, like a vegetable thing, I think it was a turnip, and created like this doll for him. And when she passed away, that was all he had left of her. And the auntie, being the treacherous witch that she is, cooked it into soup because she was so bitter. And then that's when Nicholas was like, I'm out. I'm gonna go find my father, because his father was gone for like 3 months. During that time, we meet a reindeer that he names Blitzen, and he helps Blitzen because Blitzen got hurt along the way. They become friends. There's also like this little mouse on his shoulder that he's friends with. And then now he basically like passed out in the winter because it's like snowing and shit, and he has no food. He passed out, and then these 2 elves found him and took him to their city. But at the moment, we're about to get into the story of, I believe, an elf that just got, like, that has been kidnapped. So I'm really excited. I'm also curious how the movie's gonna play out, because most of this isn't dialogue. It's mostly like us in the narrator's perspective. So I was wondering if the movie's gonna be narrator's perspective. Either way, I really like the book. But I'll let you know later on. I think I'm gonna read, there's 39 chapters. I'm on chapter 15 now. I'll update you the next 15 chapters I read, or if something else happens and I'm like, oh my god, I need to talk to you. But in the background, I'll be having this beautiful site right here. I just finished season 2 of The Witcher. I just loved it. I loved it so much. But yeah, Netflix has The Witcher fireplace, and that's what I'm looking at while I listen to the story. But I'll give you an update later. Okay, so it's a little bit later. I ended up talking to my friend on the phone, and then she came over real quick, and then I put gifts in her car, and she gave me gifts so we could open on FaceTime tomorrow. And then when she got home, we FaceTimed and talked for a while. But I'm on chapter 22 of A Boy Called Christmas, and I'm loving it so much. I'm loving it so much. So basically, I think I left off where like Nicholas has run away from his evil auntie, found a reindeer, helped it out. Now they're all friends. They're traveling through like snow and stuff, like it's cold. I feel like I look so tired. I probably look super tired. But they're like traveling through snow, and he's giving up because he's tired, he's hungry, and he still hasn't found his father. So he's like, I'm done. And he basically says, I don't believe in magic. And because of that, he like, well, not because of that, but he ends up fainting. And when he wakes up, there's 2 elves that greet him. And I'm like, oh, okay. Turns out they did like this hopeful spell on him to make him feel better. But this spell gives him certain powers, but he doesn't know what they are yet. You find out in the elf city, everybody's miserable and unhappy, and they're like ruled by this person who's really not like a good leader. Like he wants people to be miserable. And everyone's sectioned off and like in their own corners and all this stuff. It's just a lot. But they find out, or in the story, you find out that there's a little elf named Kip that has been kidnapped by the humans. And it turns out Nicholas' dad is one of the humans that might have kidnapped him. So they lock Nicholas up into this tower with a truth witch who is overly excited and also likes exploding people's heads, and then a troll who plans on killing Nicholas on Christmas, which is also his birthday. And when everyone's asleep, Nicholas is like, I don't want to die. So he tries to escape the tower, which turns out they're actually locked into this chimney. But the chimney hole is too small, so he has to figure out like how to get out. Turns out he could fly. But there's like this little scuffle that happens. And then the troll ends up eating one of the leaves that the truth pixie had that makes their heads explode. She gets excited. The troll's head explodes. It's just utter chaos. And then to escape, Nicholas has to learn how to use his powers quickly to get out because the elves are trying to get him. So I just ended on like the part where he escaped. But what I'm really loving about this book is it's kind of reminding me of, or some sections are reminding me of Peter Pan. I have not read the book, but I have watched a lot of movies. Specifically, Peter Pan 2003 movie, where the scene it's like when Nicholas says he doesn't believe in magic and then like he faints and like everything fades to black. It reminded me of when, if you, in the movie of Peter Pan, if you don't believe in fairies and you say it out loud, like a fairy drops dead somewhere because you don't believe in magic, right? Because fairies are the embodiment of magic. And then there's a line, let me see if I can find it. There is a line when he's learning how to use his powers to escape. He says, "It was a feeling of unbreakable joy, hope where no hope could exist. And then, before he knew it, he was rising. He was floating off the ground." That just reminded me of like, you just need pixies, like fairy pixie dust and like happy thoughts to fly or whatever. So I thought it was cool. But I can show you what Nicholas looks like. This is what Nicholas looks like, right? And then this is what the truth pixie looks like. Where's the troll at? I could show you what the troll looks like because he's kind of scary. This is what the troll looks like. But right now, Nicholas has escaped and I'm excited to see what happens next. It's later in the night. It's about to be 11, so it's like one more hour till Christmas. But I finished A Boy Called Christmas. And you know what? 5 out of 5 stars. So if you're planning on reading it, do it. Especially the audiobook. That's what I prefer. But I'm going to continue spoiling. So we leave off with Nicholas escaping prison. He ends up finding his father. Turns out his father is the actual reason why they kidnapped the little elf. Betrayal. And then he's like, I can't believe my dad did this. My dad is a fraud. And I'm like, whoa. The dad finally decides because Nicholas is trying to save the elf, and when he tries to save him, the hunters are like trying to kill Nicholas, and then it's a whole chaos. The whole chaos, right? But then later in the night, the father like has a change of heart, and he's like, Blitzen, since they know Blitzen can fly, is going to try to fly the sleigh, and they're all going to go on it. So they all were on the sleigh, and Blitzen's trying to fly away to go back to Elfheim. But the thing is, Blitzen's only one reindeer, and they have too much weight on the thing. And during this time, the hunters wake up while they're trying to fly in the air, and they start shooting arrows. And the father gets shot in the arm. Blitzen gets hurt by like hitting like bushes and stuff. And the father decides to save the elf. He has to sacrifice himself. And he's like telling his son, like, I want you to know me for like the good in me. So he sacrifices himself on his son's birthday, which is Christmas. They end up back in Elfheim. All the elves are happy. They decide that he could stay in the city. But yeah, and I was like, okay. And then it jumps to like 10 years later. He's 21. He's trying to find a purpose in life because basically, if you're an elf, or anybody with like magical powers or whatever, once you find your happiness, you stop aging, which is actually pretty cool. But he's 21 trying to find his purpose, and he doesn't know what it is. So he goes to the truth pixie, and he's like, I need you to tell me the truth. Like, I need your help. And she's like, I think your purpose is giving. And he's like, I don't even know what that means, right? But then later on, when he turns like 62, he figures out, like, there's more stuff in between. But basically, once he hits 62, he figures out, I want to bring happiness to everybody, right? Because everyone in Elfham is already happy. But he's like, I want to bring happiness beyond the mountain to the human world. And I want them to also experience happiness. But they also have to keep in mind to protect the elf city because humans are dangerous. And in order to do so, they have to come up with like all these guidelines and like a plan. And his goal was basically to give gifts to children because he remembers giving gifts to people and it made him happy, but also it made that person happy, but also receiving gifts and always wanting gifts as a kid. Right? So that's what he does. And when he finds that like purpose, he stops aging at 62. And I'm like, what? And then like it goes into like more details of like rules, or like not rules, but like things to live by Santa Claus. And the reason why he's called Santa Claus is because the truth pixie called him that, and she basically was like, that means like a giant guy with a big belly or something like that. And that's how he became Santa Claus. But he became Father Claus because he basically became the mayor of Elfham City. And when you be elected mayor, they call you either father or mother, and then whatever name you go by. And he wanted to be called, not Father Claus, Father Christmas. And he wanted to be called Father Christmas because that's what his mom and his dad called him. The last section was just so wholesome. But now, okay, so it's almost 11 and I want to watch this movie because I'm not tired. So the next time I talk to you, it's going to be Christmas. And I'm hoping this movie is so good because I actually don't know how they're gonna, like how it's gonna work, because the book was so well written, but it's all in like narrative perspective. So I'm kind of curious how it plays out because like you need dialogue and like things to happen. But yeah, I'm excited. I'll talk to you on Christmas. Okay, so I just got done watching A Boy Called Christmas. It is now 12:41 in the morning. Can you see? Merry Christmas. I think I'm gonna give the movie like a 3.5 out of 5. Simply because it's different from the book and I like the book more. I'm gonna state that right now. But the changes that they added, I don't think it brought anything to the story. And I also don't think there was character development in the story. So the first change that you notice is that there is a narrator who is telling a story to these 3 children on Christmas Day or Christmas Eve. And they recently just lost their mother and their father has to go out to work, I believe. But they're kind of sad. So the narrator, who is the one and only Maggie Smith, tells them the story of A Boy Called Christmas. And it starts off like how the book starts off, which is cool. But then we get to the point where the father leaves, the auntie is horrible, and he runs away. And then the mouse, when they run away, the mouse starts to talk back to Nicholas, which doesn't happen in the book. And not only does it not happen in the book, he has way more lines than I think he should have. And then we meet the reindeer, Blitzen, in the same way. But how Blitzen is in the book, he's more like a sarcastic kind. Like, I don't know how to describe, like, if he was a person, it would be sarcastic and like a funny type of person, how they explained it in the book. But in the movie, it doesn't seem like that. Not only that, he's the only reindeer in the movie, which I guess would make sense because it is CGI. So maybe it costs more to make more reindeer. But I wish there was more to that. They also named the group when Nicholas enters Elfham, they named the group the Resistance. So the Resistance is a group of elves who believe in hope and want to stay with hope, and goes against the new ruler of Elfham. And speaking of the ruler, it is no longer, what was it? So is Father Voldor, I think that was their name in the book. But instead of father, they changed it to mother. So it's a woman who's running the thing, who's the evil person. And then to the scene where they're in the prison, the pixie has more lines and more scenes inside the book. Inside the movie, which I was like, okay, that's fine. But they changed the whole thing of how he escapes, which kind of sucks, because I think what the book brought was explanations of how Nicholas becomes Santa Claus or Father Christmas. And it's by the little things, right? Like how if you don't believe in magic, or if you have no hope, then you can't have magic, right? Or I'm trying to think what else happened in the book, because it's just so, the feelings I got are different. I felt more connection with the characters in the book than the movie, even though the movie has more dialogue. How is that possible? I'm trying to think. Also, this is, okay, I didn't like this. I don't know if this is me overthinking, because it is almost 1 a.m. But the characters in the book who were people of color had less lines, and they were always the one that had something bad happen to them. So the little elf Kip has lines in the book. And he has dialogue with Nicholas, and also with his parents and other people in Elfham. They are people of color, and he only has one line that says, "I'm not going to make a big speech." And then they added this whole other scene when there's the escape from the prison, where the teacher, who is of color, helps Nicholas escape, and she's being punished for it. And there's no character development. And then there's this whole little plot twist with the mother used to be in the village, and she knew the lady who was evil, because when she was about to like basically kill Nicholas, she seen the mother's pendant, and she was like, where'd you get that? And then she starts like crying and tells this story, and then everyone's all happy jolly. And then maybe I don't like this movie because I just read the book and I really love the book. And then what doesn't happen is like the aging process, right? So like it doesn't skip to like 10 years or to like when he's 62, when he has a full beard and he's finding his purpose. It immediately does this like light switch moment where Nicholas is like, oh, I have to give out toys to people. And not only that, he brings the king along with him to fly on the reindeer to give toys to people. And then he's like, all right, cool, king, now you know how to give people hope, peace. And then the king's like, actually, you do the job. What do you want to call this day? And then that's when it ends. That's when that section ends, and then it fades back to like the beginning of the story where like it's being narrated, and then you find out the narrator's actually the truth pixie, but older. Do I like this movie? Do I want to change my rating? I'll give it a 3.5 stars, only because like if I watched the movie first, maybe I would like it better, but I read the book first and I really, really enjoyed it. But yes, that's my review. I think the book is better than the movie, but I think it'll be fine if you watch both. I mean, if you do both. Preferably read the book. But yeah, if you have any suggestions for like a next book to movie adaptation you want me to talk about, just let me know in the comments below. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. I'll talk to you in my next video. Bye.